Hey there, so we're going to go through and take a look at Module 3. If you're just joining us, you can go back and check out Module 1 and 2. You need the file called ex3-1, and you can just open that up. It should be given to you by your instructor, and it looks like this. So when you first open it up, you'll notice right at the top it will say ex3-1 protected view-excel. And just press where it says Enable Editing. Once you do that, it will change to 3-1, and that means that you can now start editing it. Now, what we're going to be doing for this module is a lot of formatting. We're going to look at how we format numbers, how we format the worksheet, add colors, and so on, in order to make it easier to read and also much quicker to sort through the data. Right? So we're going to look at a bunch of different ways to do that. So let's get started with step number 1, and if you're just joining us, again, we're on page 52 in the Brown book. So what we're going to do is, we're going to open up this file, and we're going to save it. So I'll go to File, Save As. I'm just going to put it on my desktop for now. And I'm going to call this file ex3-r2g, just like that. Make sure this says Excel Workbook, and I'm going to press Save. Okay, so it's saved that file onto my desktop, and now you'll notice up here the file name is ex3-r2g. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to D4 to D32. So that's going to be over here, D4, and we'll drag down to D32. Now, the issue is that these numbers are not numbers like everything else. This is our cost, right? So we're going to go there, and we're just going to press $, and that's going to give us the dollars like this. Or we can click up here and change to where it says currency, and we'll get numbers like that. Right? So it just depends on where you want the $ to be and how it's supposed to look. For now, let's stick with accounting. So that's going to line all the dollar signs up on one side and all the numbers up on the other side. Okay, we can also have this as number format and a bunch of different formats. And before we continue, let's take a look at one more place that we could format numbers. If you right-click and you go to Format Cells, it will open up this dialog box, and you could pick what kind of number it is. So let's say we have accounting. You could choose 2 decimal places. You could pick number, choose 2 decimal places, and you'll notice that they come out differently when they're positive and negative, and they'll look differently as we put them in here. So we formatted everything to be accounting style, right? Next, let's go to F4. That's going to be over here to H32. So we're going to grab all of these numbers, and that's for our extended cost, sales tax, and total. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in a comma, right? This is going to put in a comma style. That means that wherever there's a 1,000 place separator, it will put in like the 4,217. It makes it easier to read the 1,000 place. However, there's no $ like we have over here, right? Maybe sometimes, depending on what you're doing, sometimes putting in a huge amount of $ could be really difficult, right? Difficult to read. Next, let's go to J4 to J32. So we'll go over here and we'll grab all the cells in column number J. And for these ones, we're going to go to percentage. And then we're going to increase the decimal places. Okay, so what did that do? It gave us the number and a percentage. And it says percent of total, so this gives us a percentage. And we added 2 more decimals. So if we click it 3 times, we get 3 decimal places. Now, what happens if you decrease it to 0 decimal places? Actually, what it's doing is it's rounding. You'll notice this is 0.1, so it's going to round it down to 0. Right? This is 7.1, it will round it down to 7. So depending on how many decimal places you put in, that's how much it will round it. Okay, next step, we're up to step number 4, is decrease the decimals twice, so that brings us back to no decimals. Alright, so now let's go back here. We're going to go to B4 to B31. So we're going to grab all of these. Alright, now let's find the number group over here, and we're going to click on the Launcher button. Okay, now what is going to happen is we can choose different formats to show the dates. Now we're going to first select 14 March 12. Let's look for that one. There we go, it's right there on the bottom. 14 March 12th. Okay, and then we're going to press OK. And what that's going to do is it's going to convert all our dates to 1-Jan-17. Now, as you remember from the last video, if you ever get these hash marks, that means that it's too big to display in that column. All you have to do is put the mouse in between and just stretch it out a little. Right, so we could see the data. If it's too small, it's just going to show up like this. Alright, so let's see what we have so far. We added dollar signs to column D. To column F, G, and H, we added a comma, a thousand place separator, right up here. Then we added the percentages and we took off all the decimal places. And over here we converted these to this date format. You'll notice that this says 1-Jan-17, whereas here it says 2017-01-13. So it's a different format, right? And let's keep on going. Next, let's go to C4 to C31, so that's this guy over here. And we're going to go to Format Cells, like this. And we're going to go to 14-MAR. So let's look for that one. We'll scroll down. Now the interesting thing is that unlike in the book, I actually don't have that particular format. I don't have a 14/MAR. I do have a whole bunch of other things. I could create one if I want, but for right now I'll just pick the bottom one because that's the closest thing. Okay, so I have the numbers formatted the same way. So you could see that as you have different types of numbers, you could format them differently, either as different dates, or as a percentage, or with a comma, or with different kinds of financial signs like a dollar sign or counting. And you could make the numbers much more readable by doing this, right? Let's also stretch out between A and B, just so we could see that. Okay, so this is the end of this video, and we're at the end of page 52. Save your file, and then we'll continue in the next video on page 54.